When Nikon develops a flagship camera, the process rarely follows the rhythm of hype cycles or competitor timelines. Instead, Nikon tends to move with a slower, more deliberate pace, one that often frustrates observers in the short term but makes more sense when viewed over a longer arc. This philosophy is especially relevant when talking about the Nikon Z9 II. At this point, the camera remains unofficial, unannounced, and unseen in any public capacity. Yet the growing discussion around it is not driven by leaks alone, but by patterns in how Nikon treats its most important tools and how it responds to real-world professional feedback. As expectations increasingly point toward a 2026 release window, the conversation naturally evolves from impatience to interpretation. The idea of a 2026 release immediately raises concerns for many photographers and filmmakers, particularly those working in sports and news. Traditionally, flagship cameras are launched in proximity to global events like the Winter Olympics or the FIFA World Cup. These moments provide manufacturers with a powerful stage to showcase their latest technology under the most demanding conditions imaginable. From the outside, missing those events may appear to weaken a brand's presence. However, Nikon has never fully relied on spectacle to validate its professional cameras. Historically, Nikon has been comfortable letting its tools prove themselves quietly, sometimes years before a formal announcement, by placing them into the hands of working professionals under real conditions. This approach changes how we should interpret the apparent delay of the Nikon Z9 II. Instead of viewing it as a missed opportunity, it may be more accurate to see it as a reflection of Nikon's priorities. The company has long favored refinement and dependability over rushing to meet symbolic deadlines. Even if the Nikon Z9 II does not arrive with an official unveiling tied to a major sporting event, that does not mean it will be absent from those environments. Nikon has a long-standing habit of field testing advanced hardware discreetly, allowing professionals to push the equipment to its limits before the public ever hears about it. To understand why Nikon might feel confident taking this route, it is worth revisiting what the original Z9 represented when it launched in 2021. The Z9 was not simply another mirrorless camera, it was Nikon's declaration that mirrorless could fully replace its most trusted professional DSLRs. The removal of the mechanical shutter was a bold move that signaled confidence in electronic shutter technology. Blackout-free shooting fundamentally altered how photographers followed fast-moving action. The stacked sensor delivered speed and responsiveness that felt robust rather than experimental. On the video side, Nikon finally presented a camera that could stand on professional sets without apology. Over time, the Z9's strengths became clearer through daily use rather than marketing demonstrations. Sports photographers relied on its consistency during long assignments, where reliability mattered more than headline specifications. Wildlife photographers trusted its subject detection in unpredictable natural environments. Video shooters found a camera that could sustain demanding workflows without overheating or instability. These experiences formed the foundation for expectations around the Nikon Z9 II. Most professionals are not calling for dramatic reinvention. Instead, they are looking for polish, subtle improvements that reduce friction and make the camera feel even more dependable when it matters most. This expectation of refinement may explain why Nikon appears comfortable extending the Z9's life cycle. As speculation increasingly points toward late 2026, it becomes clear that Nikon is not chasing urgency. Instead, it seems focused on ensuring that the next iteration feels meaningfully improved in everyday use. Nikon has rarely been a brand that introduces change for its own sake. Its flagship updates tend to focus on solving known limitations rather than introducing novelty. In that context, the Nikon Z9 II's extended timeline feels intentional rather than reactive. One of the most discussed areas of potential improvement is processing power. There is growing speculation that Nikon may move toward a more advanced processing architecture in the Nikon Z9 II, possibly involving a dual processor setup. This could mean pairing a next-generation XPET processor with dedicated AI-focused hardware. Such a change would not be about boosting numbers on a spec sheet. Instead, it would aim to improve how the camera thinks, how quickly it interprets a scene, how often it updates focus calculations, and how intelligently it responds to complex visual information. In practical terms, stronger processing could transform subtle aspects of shooting. Autofocus systems could refresh more frequently, reducing lag between subject movement and focus adjustment. Subject recognition could remain more stable when a scene becomes cluttered or visually chaotic. exposure and color decisions could adapt more smoothly as lighting conditions shift unpredictably. For professionals, these improvements would not feel like new features. They would feel like fewer missed moments and greater confidence in the camera's decisions. However, building and tuning such a system requires time. The more complex the internal logic becomes, the more testing is needed to ensure reliability across countless scenarios. This complexity alone could justify Nikon's cautious timeline for the Nikon Z9 II. Autofocus performance remains one of the most critical areas under discussion. The original Z9 already performs at a very high level, but no autofocus system is immune to edge cases. Situations involving low contrast, strong backlighting, or overlapping subjects can still challenge even the best cameras. These moments are particularly frustrating because they often occur during high-pressure assignments where there is no opportunity for a second attempt. Rather than adding dramatic new autofocus modes, Nikon may be focusing on improving consistency in these difficult conditions. If the Nikon Z9 II can reduce hesitation and maintain subject lock more reliably in challenging scenarios, that improvement would matter far more than any headline feature. This emphasis on consistency reflects Nikon's broader design philosophy. Nikon has often prioritized trustworthiness over spectacle. Instead of chasing attention with bold claims, the company tends to refine existing systems until they behave predictably in demanding environments. For professionals, this approach carries real value. A camera that behaves the same way every day, regardless of conditions, is often more valuable than one that offers impressive features but inconsistent performance. Video capabilities are another area where expectations for the Nikon Z9 II are steadily growing. Nikon's acquisition of RED has naturally fueled speculation about deeper integration between Nikon's hybrid cameras and cinema-focused expertise. Rather than expecting immediate, dramatic changes, many observers anticipate gradual improvements that elevate image quality and workflow. Better highlight roll-off, improved dynamic range, and more refined color response are all areas where RED's influence could subtly enhance Nikon's video output. These changes may not dominate headlines, but they can significantly improve real-world footage. There has also been discussion around high frame rate 8K recording, with some speculation pointing toward 8K at 120 frames per second. While this specification sounds impressive, its practical value depends entirely on implementation. Heat management, data throughput, storage requirements, and post-production workflow all determine whether such a feature is genuinely useful. Nikon has historically shown restraint in this area, often favoring features that can be sustained over long shoots rather than brief demonstrations. If high frame rate 8K appears in the Nikon Z9 II, it will likely be designed with these real-world constraints in mind. As this story continues to develop, one thing remains consistent. With Nikon, silence often signals careful preparation rather than inaction. The Nikon Z9 II may not yet be visible to the public, but that does not mean it is not evolving behind the scenes. It may simply mean that Nikon is taking the time to ensure that when the camera finally arrives, it feels complete, dependable, and worthy of its flagship status. In the end, the true measure of the Nikon Z9 II will not be the timing of its announcement, but how it performs in the hands of professionals who depend on it every day.